Your soulmate has another side. And it's watching you. Don't scroll, stay with me, because this sentence isn't meant to alarm you, it's meant to name a subtle reality you've already felt. You sensed it before you could explain it. A quiet awareness. A feeling that someone you once knew deeply is still aware of you, still observing from a distance, still holding a version of themselves you never fully met. This isn't about surveillance or control. It's about unfinished internal connection. About a side of them that stayed awake even after the relationship changed form. Listen carefully, because people don't stop watching what they haven't resolved. When someone has another side, it's often the side that couldn't speak when it mattered. The side that noticed everything but chose silence. The side that learned how to stay quiet instead of honest. That side doesn't disappear when contact ends. It remains alert. Curious. Aware. Watching from the edges, not to interfere, but to understand what they didn't know how to face before. Don't scroll, because this explains why you sometimes feel a strange sense of being remembered. Not contacted. Not pursued. Just remembered. You feel it when their name crosses your mind without effort. You feel it when a memory surfaces without emotion attached. That isn't longing. It's resonance. Resonance happens when two people shared something real that never fully concluded. Stay with me, because the side of them that's watching is not the same side that withdrew. It's not the avoidant side. It's not the fearful side. It's the reflective side. The one that notices patterns. The one that compares who you were then to who you are now. The one that wonders quietly whether distance actually brought peace or just quiet. Listen to this deeply, because watching doesn't mean wanting to return. It means staying aware. It means tracking growth. It means noticing how time changed you and what that change says about them. This side is observant, not impulsive. It doesn't act quickly. It watches first. Don't scroll, because this is why you may feel seen even without interaction. You didn't imagine that awareness. People don't stop noticing those who impacted them deeply. They just learn to do it from a place that feels safer to them. Watching allows distance without denial. It allows them to feel without committing. Stay with me, because this other side is often quieter than the one you knew. Less expressive. More thoughtful. It notices how you carry yourself now. How your energy feels steadier. How you're no longer reaching outward for clarity. That shift doesn't go unnoticed. It registers. Listen carefully, because when someone watches instead of engages, it's often because engagement would require accountability. Accountability for what they couldn't give. Accountability for what they hid. Accountability for how they left things unfinished. Watching allows them to stay connected without facing those truths directly. Don't scroll, because this isn't about power. It's about internal conflict. One side of them moved on externally. Another side stayed emotionally aware. Those two sides don't always communicate well with each other. The result is quiet observation instead of action. Stay with me, because you may have noticed moments where you felt energetically acknowledged. A sense that they knew something about you had shifted. That feeling wasn't imagined. Awareness travels without words. When someone has unresolved connection, they remain attuned even at a distance. Listen to this deeply, because this watching side doesn't feel threatening. It feels curious. It feels contemplative. It's the side that wonders if they misjudged timing. The side that recognizes maturity in you now. The side that realizes what felt overwhelming before might not feel the same today. Don't scroll, because this doesn't mean they are coming back. It means they are processing. Processing who they were then. Processing who you are now. Processing what the connection meant beyond the version they were ready for at the time. Stay with me, because this awareness can be confusing if you don't understand it. You might wonder why you feel their presence without their participation. Why there's no action, but still a sense of attention. That's because watching is passive engagement. It satisfies curiosity without risking vulnerability. Listen carefully, because vulnerability is what this side avoids. Not because it lacks feeling, but because it remembers the cost of being seen. Watching allows them to learn without exposing themselves. It's safe. It's controlled. Don't scroll, because your role in this dynamic has changed. You are no longer trying to be seen. You are no longer adjusting yourself to be understood. You simply are. And that presence is what draws attention. Not effort. Alignment. Stay with me, because this is where power quietly shifts. When you stop seeking recognition, recognition becomes observational. When you stop performing connection, connection becomes reflective. You are no longer reaching toward them. They are looking toward you. Listen to this deeply, because this can stir mixed feelings. Validation. Curiosity. Closure. Indifference. All of them can coexist. None of them require action. Awareness doesn't demand response. You don't owe this watching side anything. Don't scroll, because the important distinction is this: being watched does not mean being available. You are not obligated to reopen doors because someone noticed your growth. You are not required to re-engage because awareness exists. Awareness is theirs to hold, not yours to manage. Stay with me, because this understanding brings calm. You no longer interpret their attention as a signal you must decode. You recognize it as part of their internal process. Separate from your path. Parallel, not intersecting. Listen carefully, because this other side of them also sees something else now. It sees your boundaries. Your steadiness. Your lack of urgency. That steadiness communicates something words never could. It says you're no longer waiting to be chosen. You've chosen yourself. Don't scroll, because that realization can be confronting. Watching someone thrive without needing you forces reflection. It invites questions they may not be ready to answer. Watching becomes the compromise between curiosity and courage. Stay with me, because this phase isn't about reunion or reconciliation. It's about acknowledgement without intrusion. It's about knowing that impact doesn't vanish just because contact ends. It transforms. Listen to this deeply, because transformation doesn't always look like growth on both sides at the same pace. Sometimes one person integrates faster. Sometimes the other lingers in observation. That difference doesn't mean imbalance. It means divergence. Don't scroll, because you might wonder whether you should care. Whether it matters that they're watching. The truth is, it only matters if it pulls you out of alignment. If it doesn't, it's simply information passing through your awareness. Stay with me, because the healthiest response to being quietly observed is neutrality. Not avoidance. Not engagement. Neutral presence. You live your life. You don't perform. You don't hide. You don't explain. Listen carefully, because this neutrality is powerful. It communicates safety without invitation. It allows others to learn from afar without disrupting your peace. You don't owe anyone access to your growth. Don't scroll, because the final truth of this beginning is simple. The side of them that's watching exists because something meaningful happened. Meaning doesn't disappear. It changes shape. Watching is one of those shapes. Stay with me till the end, because if this message resonated, if it named something you felt but couldn't explain, take a moment to like this video so it reaches others who need clarity. Share it with someone who might recognize this dynamic. And subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what comes next. Stay till the end of your own process. Understanding always deepens when you listen. Don't scroll, stay with me, because after recognizing that quiet awareness, the experience doesn't fade, it evolves. This is the phase where you begin to understand what it actually means to be observed without being approached. It feels subtle, almost intangible, yet consistent. Not intrusive. Not demanding. Just present. You realize that this watching side isn't fueled by urgency, but by reflection. They aren't trying to change the past. They're trying to understand it. Listen carefully, because understanding often comes long after action ends. When someone isn't ready to stay, they leave before comprehension arrives. Comprehension takes time, distance, and comparison. This side of them is comparing. Comparing who they were when they stepped back to who they are now. Comparing the version of you they remember to the one you've become. That comparison happens quietly, internally, without interruption. Don't scroll, because this explains why their attention doesn't feel heavy. It doesn't pull at you. It doesn't create pressure. It doesn't ask anything of you. It simply exists. Watching is passive. It allows them to stay connected to meaning without confronting responsibility. It's a way to keep something alive without having to act on it. Stay with me, because this side of them also holds memory differently. Memory without urgency becomes observation. They notice patterns now that they couldn't see before. How you handled separation. How you didn't collapse. How you didn't chase clarity endlessly. How you grew steadier instead of louder. That growth speaks. And this side listens. Listen to this deeply, because watching is often the first step toward internal honesty. It's not always followed by action. But it is a sign that something is being acknowledged. The connection mattered enough to stay present in their awareness, even if they weren't able to stay present in real time. Don't scroll, because you may have wondered whether this awareness is projection. Whether it's imagined. But intuition doesn't invent patterns out of nothing. It responds to subtle cues. Shifts in energy. Unspoken recognition. You're not reading minds. You're noticing resonance. Stay with me, because resonance doesn't require contact. It exists when two people shared something unfinished. That unfinished quality creates a thread. The thread doesn't pull. It hums. Quietly. Occasionally. Without demand. Listen carefully, because this side of them is not watching to reclaim control. It's watching to make sense. They're noticing how life unfolded without them. They're observing whether the choice to step away brought relief or simply silence. Silence can feel peaceful at first. Over time, it can start to feel empty. Don't scroll, because emptiness invites reflection. Reflection invites memory. Memory invites comparison. That's the cycle. Watching is the point in the cycle where reflection becomes focused. They aren't scrolling through the past randomly. They're paying attention now. Stay with me, because you may feel moments where your presence feels acknowledged even without interaction. Not validated. Acknowledged. There's a difference. Validation seeks response. Acknowledgement recognizes reality. This side recognizes you. Listen to this deeply, because recognition doesn't mean entitlement. They don't feel owed access to you. They feel awareness of you. And awareness can exist without claim. That distinction matters. Don't scroll, because this is where your role becomes very clear. You are not required to adjust. You are not required to signal availability. You are not required to respond energetically. Your job is simply to remain aligned with yourself. Awareness does not create obligation. Stay with me, because neutrality is often misunderstood. Neutrality is not coldness. It's stability. You can allow someone to observe without reacting. You can live fully without hiding or performing. That grounded presence is what keeps this dynamic from becoming disruptive. Listen carefully, because when someone watches from a distance, they're often learning how to sit with their own thoughts. They are forced to process without input. Without reassurance. Without distraction. Watching gives them information, but not comfort. And that discomfort can be instructive. Don't scroll, because instruction doesn't always lead to change. Sometimes it leads to acceptance. Acceptance that the moment passed. Acceptance that readiness arrived too late. Acceptance that some connections are meant to be understood, not continued. Stay with me, because this acceptance doesn't diminish what was real. It contextualizes it. It allows the meaning to stay without requiring the relationship to resume. That's a mature outcome, even if it's quiet. Listen to this deeply, because this side of them also notices something else now. Your lack of urgency. Your lack of signaling. Your lack of emotional noise. Silence on your end feels different from avoidance. It feels settled. And settled presence is noticeable. Don't scroll, because settled presence can be confronting. It removes fantasy. It shows what growth actually looks like when it's lived instead of announced. You're not trying to prove anything. You're just living. That's what they see. Stay with me, because this is where the watching side learns without interaction. They learn what it feels like to witness someone's evolution without being part of it. That experience can be humbling. It can also be sobering. Listen carefully, because humility often arrives quietly. It doesn't come with apologies or declarations. It comes with observation. With noticing how much was missed. With recognizing moments where presence could have changed everything. Don't scroll, because this doesn't mean regret consumes them. It means perspective forms. Perspective doesn't require contact. It requires honesty with oneself. Watching creates space for that honesty. Stay with me, because you may notice that you no longer feel pulled into interpreting what this means for the future. You're not asking whether they'll reach out. You're not imagining outcomes. You're simply aware that awareness exists. And that's enough. Listen to this deeply, because when curiosity no longer drives you, clarity has arrived. You're not curious about their intentions. You're not scanning for signs. You're anchored in your own life. That anchoring is the strongest position you can be in. Don't scroll, because anchoring doesn't disconnect you from feeling. It protects you from being destabilized by it. You can notice without reacting. You can acknowledge without engaging. You can continue without closure. Stay with me, because this phase is about coexistence without collision. Two paths running parallel. One observing. One living. No interference. No entanglement. Just awareness moving alongside growth. Listen carefully, because this is where power quietly rests. Not in control. Not in influence. In self-possession. You possess your time, your energy, your direction. No one watching can take that from you. Don't scroll, because the most important truth of this phase is simple. Being seen does not require you to be accessible. Awareness does not require response. You are allowed to exist fully without explanation. Stay with me, because as this understanding settles, something stabilizes inside you. You're no longer wondering what this awareness means. You know what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean you need to change course. It doesn't mean you need to look back. Listen to this deeply, because the side of them that's watching is doing its own work. Your work is already underway. And those two processes don't need to intersect for either to be valid. Don't scroll, because this chapter continues quietly. Not with drama. Not with confrontation. With clarity. And clarity is enough to move forward. Don't scroll, stay with me, because this is the phase where awareness turns into quiet understanding, and understanding reshapes how you carry yourself without you even trying. The sense of being watched no longer feels like something external. It settles into something neutral, almost distant, like background knowledge that no longer needs your attention. You're not alert to it anymore. You're simply aware. And that difference matters. Listen carefully, because when awareness stops demanding interpretation, it means you've integrated it. You're no longer asking why they're watching or what it means. You're no longer attaching significance to every subtle feeling. You trust that whatever exists on their side belongs to their process. You've stopped pulling meaning out of silence. Silence has become just silence. Don't scroll, because this is where emotional independence becomes visible. You notice that your days are no longer shaped by thought loops about them. Your decisions aren't filtered through imagined reactions. You move freely, without adjusting your pace or energy. That freedom didn't come from forgetting. It came from choosing presence in your own life. Stay with me, because this phase often brings a deeper confidence than closure ever could. Closure seeks answers. Confidence doesn't need them. Confidence comes from knowing that you can hold complexity without losing yourself. You don't need clarity from someone else to feel stable anymore. You've built that stability internally. Listen to this deeply, because this is also where your sense of identity strengthens. You're no longer defined by how someone else perceives you, even if they are still aware of you. Their observation doesn't shape your self-image. You see yourself clearly. You know who you are without needing reflection from outside. Don't scroll, because this clarity changes how you interpret the past. You no longer replay moments wondering what you could have done differently. You recognize that the version of them who stepped back couldn't meet you where you were, regardless of timing or effort. That recognition releases you from unnecessary self-examination. Stay with me, because release doesn't mean dismissal. It means acceptance. You accept that some connections are meant to awaken awareness, not continue indefinitely. You accept that not everyone who sees you clearly can walk beside you. That acceptance brings peace. Listen carefully, because this phase also changes how you experience attention in general. You're less reactive to being noticed. Whether someone observes you, admires you, or misunderstands you, your center stays intact. You no longer lean toward external validation to feel grounded. Don't scroll, because this groundedness reshapes your emotional landscape. You feel calmer in interactions. You don't scan for hidden meaning. You don't prepare for disappointment. You trust your ability to respond if something feels off. That trust replaces vigilance. Stay with me, because this is where your nervous system fully relaxes. You're no longer braced for sudden shifts or emotional surprises. Your body recognizes safety in your own boundaries. That physical sense of safety is a sign that something has healed. Listen to this deeply, because healing doesn't erase memory. It changes your relationship to it. You can think about them without emotional spikes. You can acknowledge the connection without being pulled into it. That neutrality isn't indifference. It's balance. Don't scroll, because balance allows you to see the watching side of them more clearly now. You don't romanticize it. You don't fear it. You simply understand it as unfinished internal processing. Nothing more. Nothing less. And because you understand it, it no longer has power over you. Stay with me, because power doesn't come from control. It comes from self-possession. You possess your reactions. Your interpretations. Your direction. You're not influenced by unseen observation anymore. You're guided by your own alignment. Listen carefully, because alignment becomes your compass in this phase. You choose environments that feel calm. You gravitate toward people who communicate openly. You avoid dynamics that rely on ambiguity. These choices aren't conscious strategies. They're natural extensions of what you've learned. Don't scroll, because you may notice how little effort it takes now to maintain emotional equilibrium. You're not managing feelings constantly. You're not suppressing or amplifying them. You let them pass through. That ease is earned. Stay with me, because this ease also affects how you relate to future possibilities. You're open without being attached. Curious without being invested prematurely. You don't rush intimacy. You let trust build organically. That pacing protects you without closing you off. Listen to this deeply, because this phase also redefines what attention means to you. Attention without presence no longer impresses you. Awareness without engagement no longer confuses you. You value what shows up consistently, not what watches quietly from afar. Don't scroll, because this clarity doesn't make you rigid. It makes you selective. Selective about where you invest emotional energy. Selective about who gets access to your inner world. Selectivity is not fear. It's wisdom. Stay with me, because wisdom often looks simple from the outside. You're not dramatic. You're not reactive. You're not overthinking. You're just living. And living fully is what dissolves lingering dynamics. Listen carefully, because this is also where gratitude quietly appears. Gratitude for the growth that came from confusion. Gratitude for the awareness that sharpened your discernment. Gratitude for the strength you discovered when you stopped needing answers. Don't scroll, because gratitude doesn't mean you're thankful for pain. It means you acknowledge the transformation that followed it. You don't wish the experience back. You honor what it gave you and move forward. Stay with me, because this phase marks a shift from reflection to embodiment. You're not just thinking differently. You're being differently. Your choices reflect your clarity. Your energy reflects your alignment. Your presence reflects your peace. Listen to this deeply, because peace doesn't announce itself. It shows up in how little you're affected by what once consumed you. It shows up in how steady you feel. It shows up in how little explanation you need. Don't scroll, because this steadiness is the quiet resolution of the story so far. Not an ending, but a foundation. A foundation built on self-trust, awareness, and alignment. Stay with me, because from this place, whatever comes next will meet you differently. You're no longer entering connections from uncertainty. You're entering from clarity. And clarity changes everything that follows. Listen carefully, because the side of them that's watching may continue to watch. Or it may fade. Either way, it no longer defines your experience. You've stepped fully into your own life. Don't scroll, because this is the truth of this phase. You are no longer living in response to someone else's awareness. You are living in response to your own truth. And that is where real peace begins. Don't scroll, stay with me, because this is the phase where your clarity becomes quiet confidence, and that confidence reshapes how you experience the world without you announcing it. You're no longer monitoring the idea of being watched. It doesn't occupy mental space. It doesn't create tension. It exists, if at all, as distant information with no emotional charge attached. You've moved from awareness to embodiment, and embodiment changes everything. Listen carefully, because embodiment shows up in how you respond to situations now. You don't over-explain. You don't rush to clarify misunderstandings that don't actually concern you. You let things reveal themselves. You trust that what's meant to be understood will become clear without force. This trust wasn't always there. It was built through experience, reflection, and choosing yourself repeatedly. Don't scroll, because this is where your relationship with attention evolves. Attention no longer equals importance. Being noticed doesn't automatically register as meaningful. You understand that observation can exist without intention, and intention without action doesn't require your response. That discernment protects your peace. Stay with me, because peace isn't passive. It's active alignment. You align your time, energy, and presence with what feels grounded and reciprocal. You don't chase intensity. You don't mistake curiosity for commitment. You value consistency over intrigue. These values weren't adopted intellectually. They grew organically from what you lived through. Listen to this deeply, because this phase also changes how you handle ambiguity. Ambiguity no longer unsettles you. You don't need to resolve it immediately. You let it be. You understand that ambiguity often clarifies itself through behavior over time. You're patient without being invested prematurely. Don't scroll, because patience looks different now. It's not waiting in hope. It's allowing life to unfold without gripping outcomes. You're not suspended between possibilities. You're rooted in the present. That rootedness keeps you steady regardless of what others do or don't do. Stay with me, because rootedness also shifts how you relate to your own emotions. You don't suppress them. You don't dramatize them. You observe them with curiosity and care. You've learned that emotions pass more easily when they're acknowledged without judgment. This emotional fluency is a sign of maturity. Listen carefully, because maturity doesn't mean you've outgrown feeling. It means you've outgrown being ruled by it. You can feel something deeply without acting impulsively. You can notice longing without feeding it. You can sense attention without responding to it. That self-regulation is powerful. Don't scroll, because this power is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up in restraint. In discernment. In the ability to choose not to engage when engagement would cost you peace. You've learned that not every door needs to be opened just because it exists. Stay with me, because this phase also refines your sense of self-worth. You no longer measure it by how visible you are to someone else. You don't need to be watched to feel valued. You know your worth independent of perception. That independence frees you from subtle emotional hooks. Listen to this deeply, because hooks lose their grip when you stop seeking validation. Validation is no longer your currency. Alignment is. You invest where you feel met, not where you feel noticed. This shift simplifies your emotional life dramatically. Don't scroll, because simplicity doesn't mean lack of depth. It means depth without complication. You still value connection. You still value intimacy. You just no longer confuse depth with intensity or mystery. You recognize depth in openness, honesty, and presence. Stay with me, because presence is what you're attuned to now. You notice who shows up consistently. Who communicates clearly. Who doesn't disappear when things become real. These observations guide your choices quietly, without internal debate. Listen carefully, because this phase also brings a subtle detachment from outcome. You're not scripting futures in your head. You're not anticipating reactions. You're living. And living creates momentum that thought never could. Don't scroll, because momentum doesn't come from force. It comes from alignment. When your actions reflect your values, life moves forward naturally. You don't push. You participate. That participation feels light. Stay with me, because lightness is often misunderstood as lack of seriousness. In truth, it's the result of no longer carrying what isn't yours. You've put down the responsibility of interpreting someone else's silence. You've released the task of managing unseen dynamics. Listen to this deeply, because this release doesn't disconnect you from empathy. You still understand complexity. You still recognize fear in others. You simply no longer let that fear dictate your choices. Compassion remains, but it's balanced with boundaries. Don't scroll, because boundaries feel different now too. They're not defensive. They're natural. You don't announce them. You live them. People feel them through how you engage, how you respond, and what you allow access to. Stay with me, because living boundaries is more effective than explaining them. You don't need to justify your pace. You don't need to defend your distance. You trust that those who are aligned will understand without explanation. Listen carefully, because this phase also changes how you relate to memory. Memories don't trap you. They inform you. You can appreciate what was without wanting to return to it. That appreciation is clean, not nostalgic. Don't scroll, because nostalgia often loses its pull when reality becomes satisfying. You're building a present that feels grounded. You're investing in things that nourish you. That satisfaction reduces the allure of what's unresolved. Stay with me, because this satisfaction isn't loud happiness. It's contentment. It's ease. It's waking up without emotional residue from yesterday. It's moving through your day without carrying invisible weight. Listen to this deeply, because invisible weight was what once kept you tethered to observation. You felt something because there was something to carry. Now that weight has been set down. Observation no longer requires response. Don't scroll, because this phase also sharpens your intuition in a new way. You're not scanning for signs anymore. You're listening for alignment. You notice when something feels off and you adjust calmly. You don't second-guess that adjustment. Stay with me, because calm adjustment is a sign of trust. You trust yourself to choose wisely. You trust that you don't need to see the whole picture to make a good decision. You trust your capacity to respond if new information appears. Listen carefully, because trust in yourself is the foundation of everything that follows. Without it, attention from others feels destabilizing. With it, attention becomes irrelevant unless it's accompanied by presence and integrity. Don't scroll, because integrity has become your filter. You're drawn to people whose actions match their words. You're uninterested in dynamics that rely on ambiguity. You don't chase clarity. You live in it. Stay with me, because living in clarity doesn't close you off. It opens you to healthier connections. You're available without being exposed. Open without being unguarded. That balance is rare and valuable. Listen to this deeply, because this phase marks a turning point. You are no longer influenced by unseen observation. You are influenced by your own alignment. And alignment is steady. Don't scroll, because steadiness doesn't fluctuate with attention. It remains. It grounds you. It guides you. Stay with me, because from this place, whatever comes next will meet you where you are, not where you were. And that makes all the difference. Don't scroll, stay with me, because this is the phase where everything you've embodied begins to stabilize into a way of being that no longer fluctuates with attention, memory, or curiosity. What once felt like a subtle presence at the edge of your awareness now feels neutral, almost distant, like a fact you acknowledge without engaging. You are no longer orienting yourself around what's unseen. You are oriented around what's real, present, and steady. Listen carefully, because steadiness is not the absence of feeling. It's the presence of choice. You choose where to place your attention. You choose what deserves your energy. You choose not to be pulled into dynamics that don't offer reciprocity. This choosing isn't loud or forceful. It's quiet and consistent, and it protects your peace more effectively than any boundary you could explain. Don't scroll, because this is where you realize how much strength there is in not reacting. Not because you're suppressing something, but because there's nothing left to defend. You don't need to prove independence. You don't need to demonstrate growth. You simply live it. And living it changes how everything else relates to you. Stay with me, because this phase also refines your sense of timing. You no longer rush conversations. You no longer push moments to mean more than they naturally do. You let people arrive at their pace while staying rooted in your own. This doesn't create distance. It creates clarity. You see who can meet you without pressure and who fades when effort is required. Listen to this deeply, because fading no longer feels personal. It feels informative. You don't interpret it as rejection or loss. You interpret it as alignment revealing itself. When alignment isn't there, the connection naturally loosens. You don't grip it. You let it go without resentment. Don't scroll, because resentment dissolves when expectations become honest. You no longer expect depth from those who avoid it. You no longer expect transparency from those who hide. You accept people as they are and decide accordingly. That acceptance doesn't mean tolerance of misalignment. It means clarity without conflict. Stay with me, because this is where emotional maturity becomes visible in your everyday life. You communicate directly without over-explaining. You listen without trying to fix. You step back without needing justification. These behaviors are not strategies. They are expressions of internal alignment. Listen carefully, because alignment also changes how you experience desire. Desire no longer feels urgent or consuming. It feels calm, grounded, and responsive. You want connection, but you don't chase it. You're open, but not searching. That openness attracts without effort. Don't scroll, because this openness doesn't make you passive. It makes you selective. You notice who feels easy to be around. Who doesn't require you to manage energy. Who doesn't bring confusion into simple moments. These observations guide you more than chemistry ever did. Stay with me, because chemistry without clarity once felt exciting. Now it feels exhausting. You've learned the cost of intensity without stability. You prefer connection that feels sustainable, not intoxicating. That preference isn't settling. It's wisdom. Listen to this deeply, because wisdom shows up in how you say no. Your no is calm. It doesn't carry apology. It doesn't carry explanation. It carries certainty. And certainty doesn't need defense. Don't scroll, because certainty also changes how you say yes. Your yes is intentional. You don't say it to be liked or to avoid discomfort. You say it because it aligns with your values and your capacity. That alignment keeps your energy clean. Stay with me, because clean energy is noticeable. People feel it when they interact with you. They sense that you're not available for games, ambiguity, or half-truths. Not because you judge, but because you don't participate. That non-participation sets a tone without a word being spoken. Listen carefully, because this phase also brings a new relationship with vulnerability. You're still open, but you're not indiscriminate. You share with those who demonstrate safety through consistency. You don't overshare to create closeness. You let closeness earn access. Don't scroll, because earning access is not about control. It's about care. You care enough about yourself to protect what's tender. You no longer hand it over to curiosity or observation alone. You reserve it for presence. Stay with me, because presence has become your non-negotiable. You notice who is fully there and who is mentally elsewhere. You don't compete for attention. You disengage from distraction. That choice preserves your dignity. Listen to this deeply, because dignity is not pride. It's self-respect lived quietly. You don't posture. You don't withdraw dramatically. You simply choose what feels aligned and step away from what doesn't. Don't scroll, because this stepping away doesn't feel like loss anymore. It feels like relief. Relief from carrying ambiguity. Relief from interpreting signals. Relief from emotional labor that was never mutual. Stay with me, because relief creates space. And space invites new experiences that don't resemble the old ones. You're not repeating patterns. You're responding differently. That difference is subtle, but it changes outcomes. Listen carefully, because outcomes shift when you stop engaging from uncertainty. You don't try to secure connection. You allow connection to reveal itself. What reveals itself clearly stays. What doesn't, falls away. Don't scroll, because this is also where trust in life deepens. You trust that what aligns will find you without force. You trust that what requires you to compromise clarity isn't meant to stay. This trust isn't blind. It's informed. Stay with me, because informed trust is resilient. It doesn't collapse when things don't work out. It adjusts. You don't spiral. You recalibrate. That ability keeps you grounded through change. Listen to this deeply, because recalibration is a skill you've developed through experience. You don't cling to what shifts. You don't resist endings. You understand that movement is part of growth. Don't scroll, because this understanding softens your relationship with uncertainty even further. You're not threatened by the unknown. You're curious without attachment. You let life surprise you. Stay with me, because surprise feels different now. It doesn't destabilize you. It engages you. You meet new situations with presence, not projection. That presence allows authentic connection to form. Listen carefully, because authentic connection doesn't require watching or being watched. It exists in mutual engagement. You feel the difference immediately. There's no guessing. No interpreting. No waiting. Don't scroll, because when you experience that clarity, it resets your baseline. You no longer tolerate less. Not out of rigidity, but out of respect for what's possible. Stay with me, because possibility is what you're aligned with now. Not imagined futures. Lived reality. You build from what's here, not what could be if someone changed. Listen to this deeply, because this phase marks a shift from self-protection to self-expression. You're not hiding. You're not guarded. You're simply honest in how you live. Don't scroll, because honesty simplifies everything. You say what you mean. You do what you say. You move when it's right. You stop when it's not. Stay with me, because simplicity is not smallness. It's clarity without noise. It's presence without performance. Listen carefully, because this is the quiet power of this phase. You are no longer influenced by observation. You are influenced by alignment. And alignment is steady, sustainable, and deeply freeing. Don't scroll, because what you're living now is not a reaction to the past. It's a response to who you've become. And who you've become knows how to choose peace without closing the heart.